Hey you guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm really excited for today's video. I have my fourth update in my Pan Those Eyeshadows series for 2021. If you are new to this series, I would be very surprised, but this series was created by Alexi a few years ago, and she actually took a 2-year break kind of as this project blew up, but she is doing her project again this year, which is so exciting. So I will have her channel link down below as well as her project for this year. And if you guys like project panning content, I highly recommend Alexia's channel. I absolutely adore her channel, and I know if you have for some reason not found her yet, you will love her as well. So make sure to go check her out, and then also just search the hashtag Pan Those Eyeshadows for days worth of panning eyeshadow content for days worth of content about panning eyeshadows. It's my first day filming in almost 2 weeks, I think, so my mind is like extra woo. Anyway, you guys, I have 3 bonus pans to share. I don't have any pans in my actual shadows that I've been working on. Surprise, surprise. I don't know if I've actually hit a pan on a shadow that I've been working on in this project this year. But if you're interested in seeing my progress, stay tuned. First, if you have yet to subscribe to my channel and you like project panning content, or you just like to chit chat about makeup, I would love if you'd consider subscribing before moving on. And other than that, let's just get into the update. Okay, you guys, let's start with my bonus pans. Pretty much all of my eyeshadow pans this year have just been either a lid setting shade or an eyebrow shade. And I have 2 of those to share with you today. So the first bonus pan comes from my Juvia's Place Nomad palette. And I have successfully hit pan in this shade right here, which is obviously a deep brown shade that I was using in my brows. The Juvia's pans are very deep, so I am really excited that I was able to hit pan on this. I say pretty consistently all year I've just selected a dark brown shade to work on as my brow shade, and once I hit pan, I move on to the next. And the same goes for my lid setting shade, and the lid setting shade that I have successfully hit pan on this month comes from my Nabla Side by Side palette, and I have successfully hit pan on the shade Rarity, which you can see right there. And then the third bonus pan actually comes from a palette that I am working on in this project, but it's not the actual shadow that I was working on. And it comes from my ABH Jackie palette, which is super exciting because this is one of my favorite palettes in my collection. But I mentioned this in my previous update. This is a palette because it is limited edition. I find myself hesitating to reach for it because I know that unless they do some re-release like they did last holiday, I wouldn't be able to purchase this again. But I am going to cover up the shade that I'm currently working on. The bonus pan that I hit was in the shade Soleil, and I'm hoping you'll be able to see that there is a pan in there. It is a very little itty bitty baby pan, but it is there, I promise you. I hope that the light catches it just right. I think I had hit pan on this a couple days earlier than I realized, just because of the shade. It kind of like the pan blends in with the shade of the eyeshadow. And we'll get into the other shade that I'm working on this palette in just a bit. So I did hit 3 eyeshadows this month, putting me at a total of, what am I at for the year? Only 9 eyeshadow pans hit this year. I can't remember what I hit last year. I want to say it was in the 40s, and I was going for 50 this year, but I don't think we're going to hit that. I have been bringing a ton of eyeshadow palettes into my collection this year and trying to test them all thoroughly, which has made it very difficult for me to try and use my entire collection and hit pan on some of my shadows. So next year we might do things a little bit differently, but I do just love eyeshadow palettes and buying new eyeshadows, so it's a problem. Getting into the actual progress on the shadows that I was working on. So everyone kind of has tailored this project to be their own. And for mine, I have given myself 3 vetoes for the year on any shade that just isn't working for me. I've already used one of those, and I am going to exercise my right to veto a shade in today's update. So I'll only be left with 1 for the year. But I also run the rules on my project that if a shadow has been in the project for 3 months, or if I've used the shadow 15 times and I still have not hit pan, then I'm also giving myself the opportunity to roll those shadows out. So there is 1 other shadow that I will be rolling out today that has been in the project for 3 months. So I'm going to start with the shadow that I'm going to be rolling out or using my veto on, and it comes from my Rowan 75 Degrees quad, and the shade that I was working on is this one right here. I'm going to try and show you, but because of the packaging being so reflective, it might be a little bit difficult. So this I ended up reaching for a total of 5 times, and I actually do love my Rowan 75 Degrees quad, but I also feel a little bit limited by this palette, and I really do enjoy this shade. It's really pretty if I'm trying to do like a one shadow and done look. It just looks super glossy and wet. There's nothing against the shade. I just feel like I don't know how deep these pans are going to be, and I just am not enjoying using it for this project. I don't know how to describe it. I reach for this palette on very specific occasions, so I'm just feeling a little bit uninspired by this, and I just want to roll this out, use my veto on it. That's going to be that. And then the other shadow that I'll be rolling out comes from my Pat McGrath Sublime palette. This shade has been in the project for 3 months now, and it is this shade right here. It's this really, really beautiful duochrome shade. And I actually have it on my eyes today, so if it catches the light, depending on how it catches the light, it goes from like green to red to bronze. It's like a multi-chrome shade. I have it on the center of my eyes today, and I actually really do enjoy this shade. In total in this project, I have reached for this a total of 11 times. I just feel like these are going to be super deep shades, and I feel like I'm making no progress. Like, I feel like it doesn't really look like I've even been using the shade, even though I have been. So I'm not feeling very inspired, and I feel like I could probably end up using this in the 40 or 50s, like the amount of times before I would even feel close to hitting pan. And because of the way the shade looks, it's just not something, I feel like I get the same look or use this in the same look every time. So I'm ready to change it up. I'm ready to move on, and I will be rolling this out. So that leaves us with the other 3 shades that I've been working on. One comes from my ColourPop Baby Got Peach palette. I worked on 3 separate shades in this palette last year in this project, which is wild to me considering how many eyeshadow palettes I own. And then I got rolled in again this year, and I don't believe my shadows are all in the correct spots. I ended up dropping this, my shadows fell out, and I didn't feel like taking the time to make sure each shade was in the correct spot. So the shade that I rolled in is this one right here, which is a really beautiful kind of mid-tone matte peach shade. It's in the spot Ochre in my palette, but I don't know if that's the actual shade. There it is, swatched right there. This has been in the project, I believe it'll be going into its 3rd month, and I've only reached for this a total of 4 times. I was at 2 times as of the last update, and I reached for this an additional 2 times. I just was feeling super inspired more by like warm bronzy looks, kind of like what I have on today. I've been doing a ton of looks like this the last month or so, and I wasn't using my corals as much. But we're moving into May, we're moving into warmer weather, so I'm hoping that I can get at least a little bit more use out of this. In the past, I believe it's taken me about anywhere from 20 to 25 uses to hit pan, and that was on the shimmer shades or metallic shades. I haven't hit pan on a matte shade in this palette yet, so I'm not sure how many total uses it would take. It, I'm sure, looks like there's basically been no use at all on this. There is a little bit of hard pan in this shadow as well, but I'm going to try and get some use out of this. We'll see where we're at next month on whether or not I want to roll it out or continue to work on it. The next shade comes from my ABH Sultry palette, and it's actually a coral shade as well. I'm working on the shade Bloom. It's been in the project for 2 months. As of the last update, I had reached for this 3 times, and I reached for this one an additional 2 times. So we're at a total of 5. So not that many for this one either. These 2 pair really, really nicely together, but I just haven't been inspired by these colors yet. But again, we are reaching warmer weather. I also feel like, so some ABH mattes move really quickly, but I feel like this one is not. I've also been using the shade Birch, and I just feel like it doesn't look like I've used it at all. So I feel like, we'll see. We'll see if I end up rolling this one out next month as well, because we will reach that 3-month mark. But as of right now, I feel like I might just end up rolling that one out because I don't think I'm going to hit pan on this. And then the final shade that I am working on comes from my ABH Jackie palette, and I'm working on the shade Ginger, which is this one right here. This is another matte shade that I feel like I've used a ton, and it's just not looking like it's moving very much. So I reached for this 5 times as of me rolling it in last update, but even before then, Ginger was like one of my most reached for shades, and I just feel like it doesn't look like it's gotten that much use. It's a very, very beautiful, warm, mid-tone brown shade, and I really, really love this shade. I feel like I've gotten more use than 5 uses out of it, but I guess I've only used this 5 times. I'm very excited to continue to work on this. I think even if this takes me longer than 3 months or 15 uses, I will just continue to have this shade, continue to work on this shade until I hit pan, just because it gives me an excuse to reach into this palette. I would love to hit pan on the shade Zam. I love this shade as well. And then also, obviously, we all know I love Sponsored. So I would love for this palette to show a little bit more use and a little bit more love. And I'm very excited to continue to work on that. And then last update, I started this thing that I wanted to choose an extra like complementary palette. Pending my color story, I just wanted to choose an eyeshadow palette to work on that I felt like complemented my color story. And last update, I chose my Natasha Denona Mini Nude, and I will post a picture of what the palette looked like when I rolled it in and what it looks like today. I was so close to hitting pan on this shade right here, but I don't see a pan in this. This is the middle shade, which is Lumino, and I have a feeling I will just work on this until I hit pan. So hopefully next update I will have a bonus pan from this to share with you. But I did reach for this palette a total of 10 times. So I actually reached for this palette the most out of any of the palettes that I was working on. This palette I just absolutely love and adore. It's really, really easy to use, and I felt like this shade in particular complemented the Ginger shade from the Jackie palette really nicely. So I really enjoyed reaching for this. I'm just gonna keep this in my little easy to reach for drawer and continue to use this as my inner corner highlight until I hit pan on this. But I will choose a different complementary palette this month to work on as well. So this was the color story that we were working on, but I am gonna be rolling out these 2 shades, meaning we still have a very warm color palette to work with, but I am going to be randomly generating 2 new shades to be working on, and I'm very excited about this. So I'm sure I still have some updating to do on my spreadsheet. I'm hoping middle of the year, like end of June, I can get my life together as I like prepare all of my mid-year makeup inventory, etc., and get my spreadsheets all together. But as of right now, I have 1,358, so 1,358 eligible eyeshadows to choose from, and we're gonna randomly generate 2 shades. So we get number 254. Let's do clear history. It's probably not gonna show me 254. Okay, 254 and 223. Wow, 2 numbers in the 200s. So let me pull that up. So 254, ooh, 254 comes from a palette that I am actually planning on decluttering. I'm literally about to film an update for my palettes on their last hurrah, and I'm going to be decluttering a couple of palettes. One of them being my Dominique Cosmetics Rustic Glam palette, which is the shade which is the palette that I randomly generated a shade from. So I'm actually going to re-roll for that, because I don't want to keep that palette around when I'm not enjoying it just to try and hit pan on a shade. But number 223 comes from my Joseph Colors Marvelous Mauves palette, and it is the 4th shade in the palette. So I will grab that, but let's quickly randomize another number. We get number 788, which comes from, let's see. Ironically, I was also planning to declutter. Clearly I need to update my spreadsheet, but what are the odds that I would randomly generate numbers from, I'm not decluttering that many palettes. 1,104. Let's see. 1,104 comes from my Lunar Beauty Eternal Eclipse palette, and it is the shade Meteor. So I'm gonna go grab those 2 palettes and I will be right back. Okay, so out of my Dose of Colors Marvelous Mauves palette, we get the 4th shade, which is this shade right here. A really pretty mauve toned shade. This is gonna be a very interesting color story, and I have 4 mattes total that I'm working on, and I'm not sure what the Lunar Beauty one is going to be, but I definitely prefer to pan shimmer shades. So I don't know how I'm feeling about this. Okay, the shade Meteor out of the Lunar Eclipse palette. I literally have no idea what this shade could be. Hopefully not a blue. Meteor. It's a shimmer shade, which is exciting. Okay, let me wipe that swatch off. Okay. So Meteor. Ooh, Meteor could be super pretty actually with that Dose of Colors shade. Meteor is this shade right here, which is a really beautiful, almost like bluey lavender silver shade. There it is swatched right there. I don't know how well you'll be able, there we go. There we go. It looks really silver, I think, on camera, but it almost has like a lavender shift to it. It looks really pretty, and I feel like I could do some really pretty looks with the Marvelous Mauve palette. I just feel like it's going to be pretty cool toned, and usually in the summer I go for a little bit more warm toned, so this will be very interesting. And this is what my new color story is going to be. Now I'm going to pick a complementary palette to go with these. This could be difficult. I will be right back with the palette I want to work on alongside this color story. Okay, I'm back and I have selected the little quad that I'm going to be pairing with my color story, and it's this one from Aether Beauty, which I really enjoyed. I gave this one like a really good review and ranked it really highly when I ranked this in one of my palette rankings, which I also need to get back to. This is what this looks like, and I felt like this could be a really good complementary palette to the two cooler toned shadows in my color story. And then I feel like I obviously have other warm tone palettes that I can just naturally reach for to pair with the warm part of my color story. I know I have the ColourPop Sweet Talk palette, which I am currently testing out, which I feel like will pair really nicely with some of these warmer tones. And then I always like to reach for my Huda Coral Obsessions this time of year as well. So I wanted to choose something I felt like would complement the cool tones, and I'm really excited to see what kind of damage I can do to these 4 shades in the next month. So I'll take a picture of this and I will share what this looks like again during my next update. But that is going to wrap it up for today's Pan Those Eyeshadows update. I would love to know, are you guys currently working on panning any eyeshadows? How's it going? Do you prefer to pan matte shades, shimmer shades? You hate panning eyeshadow? I would love to know. Thank you guys so much for sticking around to watch today's video and for supporting my channel as you guys always do. I love you guys so much, and I will catch you in my next video. Bye.